Hey guys, welcome to the video. In this video, we're going to talk about the market, where I think it's going. Have we finally reached an end to the bear market? Are the bulls coming back? Is the stock market coming back? Let's talk about it. So, as always, we always start by looking at the SPY, the S&P 500. That's the biggest index, or it's one of them anyway. So, it's looking really good today. You know, we've had the last, if SPY actually ends up in the green today, that will be 4 days in a row in the green. The MACD is already curling upwards. We're in positive territory. We have a nice green bar on the MACD. The RSI is flipped from 24 up until 50. I believe it's 51 right now. So everything is looking like a nice upward trending movement. We're reaching the moving average. This is the 100-day moving average. We're officially back in this nice little channel that we were trading at, so we could extend this, and we'll extend the top. So we're just peeking into this channel again, back into it, so that's a good sign, right? So it's an overall upward movement. So that's the SPY. We're going to take a look at the NASDAQ. That's another large index that we follow. A little bit more towards the tech stocks, but you can see the kind of same trend, right? Overall uptrend. It hasn't reached its moving day average, but you can see the MACD looks very similar. The RSI looks very similar. The other index that we're going to look at is the Russell. This is the small cap stocks, and this has been hit harder than the NASDAQ and the SPY. In a nice trending channel here. We fell out. We're trying to get back up into that channel and trying to reach the moving average, but that's even looking good, right? This will be the third day. It's up 1% at this time of recording, so hopefully it ends in the green, and that's upward trending too. So all of the indexes look to be bouncing back here, at least in the short term. We're going to look at crypto real quick. Bitcoin is kind of downtrending, right? So we did see some movement upwards, and now it's starting to curl back down. ETH is having a bad day, but there's an overall slight uptrend here in a greater downtrending channel. So crypto seems to still be hurt, but if you believe in crypto, this is a good time to buy. We're back at prices that we haven't seen since September and August. So if you believe in crypto, it's a good time for crypto. But what I want to look at is kind of the big stocks, right? The FAANG stocks, the high market cap companies, because they're all getting earnings right now. It's earnings season, and they've been, well, we're going to look at each individual stock, but so far, most of these stocks have had nice earnings, and their shares have popped. The price of them has popped, and that's kind of helped the market too. So the overall thinking is, if companies like Apple are having nice earnings and their guidance is in line with what we're thinking, or maybe a little bit better, that's just an overall outlook for the market, right? I mean, big movers, big weights, they move the market in the direction that the stock goes. That only makes sense, right? So let's start looking at some of these stocks. Starting with Apple, they had great earnings, right? And the stock popped up. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We're looking at the fourth day, really, of upward movement. We're back into this channel. MACD is positive. Everything looks to be good for Apple, right? Amazon. They have not reported earnings yet. They will tomorrow. But going into earnings, it looks like there's some upward movement, right? So the expectation is that Amazon will meet their numbers for the last year will meet their expectations, and you can kind of see that in the movement of the stock, right? It's moving back upwards. So depending on how Amazon does, if they have good projections and good forecasting, and they did well last year and last quarter, then that stock could continue to move up, and we could see a nice pop in Amazon, which would bring up the overall market, right? So let's look at Facebook now. Facebook is doing their earnings today. They have their earnings call today, so we don't know how they're doing, but they're moving upwards into earnings. And in doing so, now they've reached back to this small channel that they had, which the stock was going sideways. So if Facebook has some good earnings, that might move the overall market. Google had great earnings, right? Just going to look here. The surprise on the earnings was 10.3%. Revenue was 4%. So Google beat earnings, and they have good forecasting. You can see the stock. Look at the jump, right? It's, at the time of recording, 8% in the green today. So yesterday we were just in that channel, the sideways channel, and now today there's a huge gap up. We're crossed over the 100-day moving average. We're at the very top of the channel here. So that's not to say that it's going to stay that way, but you could see in the MACD there's moving upwards. There's moving upwards in the RSI, getting close to the overbought territory. But that's another giant gap up, right, on earnings. So now let's look at Microsoft. Microsoft had good earnings, and their stock moved up. We're getting close to the 100-day moving average for Microsoft. So that's just another one of these big companies that is moving the overall market, right? Now, one thing that kind of changed that is Netflix. I don't really consider Netflix part of the whole FAANG stocks. I would prefer, I guess, FAANG, whatever it is. If you switch out Netflix for Microsoft, that's what I would probably do. But anyway, people still respect Netflix because it is, I guess, technically considered part of the FAANG stocks. So after their earnings, it dropped, right? Going right into earnings, it dropped. Their forecasting was weak for the upcoming quarters and year, but their stock still rebounded. And we're not back to our previous level in the 509 range, but you could see that just based on their existing earnings, that it's coming back a little bit. Anyway, so that's just one thing to look at, is watch the more higher market cap stocks and how they do for a good way to look at the market, right? If they move up, it'll bring the market with it. Apple single-handedly saved the market on their earnings for that day, and that started a general uptrend in the market as the other FAANG stocks started to report their earnings. So one other thing that we're going to look at here is the VIX. So the VIX measures volatility, and you can kind of see a trend. We're going to get VIX here. So you can kind of see a trend here. So I put a line here around this $20 mark, right? So, I mean, nothing is 100% certain, but usually when the VIX is under this $20 mark, the market is relatively stable. Once we see these spikes, once it goes over $20, then the market volatility starts to sink in, right? So what I'm getting at for when I'm looking at this chart is the VIX is moving downwards. You can see there's a big bar here on the MACD. There's a lot of movement on the RSI going down, and you can see there's a lot of momentum carrying the VIX back down to the $20 level. So it'll be interesting to see if we fall below the $20 channel, $20 level, or if we bounce back up and it gets more volatile. But this is another way to kind of gauge the market, right? And we can see back here the spikes. If you want to look back in November or so, it was relatively stable. And then as we got towards the end of November and December, this is where we started to see the sell-off of a lot of stocks, right? I mean, PayPal, Beyond Meat, even some of the higher market cap companies, this is where we saw the major sell-off. And then it kind of went down here, towards the end of the year, early January. That doesn't mean that stocks bounced up. Just because the market's stable doesn't mean that stocks are going to go back up to their all-time highs. But this is a good kind of way to gauge the market as well. So, anyway, guys, let me know what you think about the video. Please like and subscribe. Nothing I said is financial advice, only financial opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I appreciate you all.